Welcome to another practice. Today we're going to use a sequence that I've learned from a teacher named Catherine Budig. I really like her creativity and her sequencing, and so we're going to be working with practice, like I said, that I learned from her. She entitled it a gentle warm-up flow. And it essentially, instead of, we've done a lot of sun salutations and sun salutation A's, and we've done those as a way to warm up, and we haven't really gone beyond that. We've sort of started there. So this sequence is going to take the sun salutation A's and actually put them at the end with sequences that are reminiscent and work off of sun salutation A that incorporate things like lunges and a couple of new poses. So speaking of the new poses, there's two that I want to just give special attention to right now. And for today's practice, having a little bit of extra padding for your knees could be helpful. So I just have a blanket. I don't have it folded up too much, but I have it enough here to give me a little bit of extra love for my knees. You also might need a couple of blocks, okay, or something similar to raise your hands up off the ground. The first pose, and if you've seen this video before and you want to skip ahead, just kind of fast forward, that's fine as well. So heart melting pose is the first new one, and it uses a lot of what we learned in the open the shoulders class of that external shoulder rotation. So when we come into this, our huge priority is going to be externally rotating the shoulders and keeping them there. The tendency when we start to melt our heart down will be to collapse the shoulders in. So you really have to stay vigilant, and like your first priority is holding that external shoulder rotation and simultaneously squeezing your arms toward parallel. You can almost think about squeezing that beach ball that we talked about in our last practice. So to give you a demonstration, you're going to start in a tabletop position. And what we'll do is we want to keep the hips on top of the knees. The tendency is to kind of take the hips with you, but you're going to keep them stacked. So your lower body is going to stay in tabletop. Now your upper body is going to start to walk out similar to like a downward facing dog. So I'm walking my hands as much as I can while still keeping my hips on top of my knees. Now this is where the setup is important. We don't just want to drop in, because what'll happen is we just drop in, the shoulders are going to collapse. So instead, as we walk it out, we're going to roll the shoulders away from the neck and the ear. So external shoulder rotation. And then we have to keep that. We're going to squeeze the elbows toward parallel. Think about that beach ball, and then start to drop the heart or melt the heart toward the floor. Now, I can't get all the way there, but I'm maintaining my external shoulder rotation and my elbow squeeze, and I'm feeling a lot in my shoulder girdle and the upper back. All right. You might be able to get your heart all the way to the ground, your chin or your forehead. Everybody is a little bit different. So that's heart melting pose. The second pose, and we will be doing some lunges in this class, which is why, again, the padding is nice. So from a lunge position, we'll do something called half splits, okay? So half splits, very similar to heart melting pose. We're going to shift the hips back so it's right on top of our grounded knee. Now our other leg is going to come to straight. Again, this is where having like a couple of books, a couple of rolls of paper towels, or whatever you have in your house or at your disposal going to come in handy. The toes pull back toward the face. So similar to like a half fold, we get length here, and then exhale, lower it down. This is called half splits. All right, so full splits would be the other leg back. All right, I can only go so far here, especially having not warmed up. So you decide what you need. You might not need blocks. You might be able to reach the ground without a problem. But for those of you who are a little tighter in your lower body, having something to support you is a great idea. So let's get started. I'm actually going to take my blanket and set it up for a little extra padding. I'm going to set my block down to raise my hips. And we're going to start in an easy cross leg position. So go ahead and let yourself arrive here, kind of wiggle into your seat. And as you plug your tailbone down into the ground, Okay, be careful it's not like curling underneath you. So you might have to kind of wiggle it back and out. But plug the tailbone into the ground, and then from there, as if there was a string connected to the top of your head, gently elongating your spine, shoulders relax down. And as you deepen your breath, I want you just to consider gratitude. Maybe first do that locally. Like, what are you thankful for within yourself? And you might be having one of those days where that's hard to connect with. But I'm going to ask you to, on your next exhale, let some of that stuff that you brought into your practice here today, let that go and just see what you can be grateful for, even if it's just like the opportunity to like move your body. Like, not everyone has that opportunity. Second, I want you to expand that circle of gratitude a little bit to like maybe someone or something in your local area, like your family, your community. It could be a person, a thing, a place, an animal. So take a deep breath with like gratitude in your mind for that thing, that person, place. And lastly, as you breathe deeply, I want you to think about something you're grateful for that's like really big. I'm talking about like planetarily, macro style. Like, what is something in this world you want to give thanks to right now? And do your best to keep that feeling of gratitude within you as you move and you open up a little bit here today. Now we'll start with a cross-legged, just a seated forward fold. I'm actually going to remove my block so I'm not perched up too high. Wiggle my tailbone back. Inhale the arms up and exhale, pour it on down. Now you can stay where you're at. I'm just going to turn myself sideways so you can have another angle. One more breath here. Think about the inhale as your rib cage expanding backward and up toward the ceiling behind you, almost if you had wings. Keep the inhale going a little bit longer than you think you can. And then exhale, see if you can melt just a little bit more. Maybe crawl your fingertips a little bit further forward. Empty out all the breath. Even when you think it's done, squeeze out a little bit more. Walking your hands underneath your shoulders. Slowly roll all the way up. And then switch the cross of your legs. So whichever one's in front, put the other one in front. Find an inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale on down. So one or two more breaths here. Again, slowing it down. Keeping that feeling of gratitude as you go. As you finish your next exhale, hands come underneath the shoulders. Roll yourself all the way up for a seat. Now, stay where you're at. Keep the legs where they are. And from here, we're going to walk our left fingertips out. Take your right hand, root down the right sit bone, like really push that right butt cheek into the ground. Keep it there. Inhale the right arm up to the sky. And then exhale, take it over to the side for a seated side bend. You can see how my left elbow bends a little bit here to accommodate. Maybe it walks out a little bit more. Maybe some of you can actually bring that elbow all the way down. It's not quite there for me. If I were to do that, my right butt cheek, my right sit bone would lift up. And I'm really trying to keep that grounded down. One more breath here. Noticing another dynamic that might be happening is your rib cage popping out. That'll start to overarch your lower back. So rib cage loop down and in to seal it. And lifting up. Once again, switching the cross of your legs. This time, right fingertips walk out a little bit. Left hand roots the left hip, sit bone down. Inhale it up. Don't be in a rush. Exhale, slowly move, bending this bottom elbow. And you can see my top arm, my palm is facing down. Rib cage loop as needed. Really maybe go for it on this last breath. Using an inhale to lift up and come out. So if you're not on your inhale yet, linger there. Then when you find the inhale, then come on out. Coming into tabletop position. Cat and cow, something we've done before. Now we're starting to move our breath and our body in sync. So cow is when we're looking up, shoulders pull away from the ears. Cat is where the chin comes into the chest and you round your back like a Halloween cat. Now connect the breath here. So the cow is your inhale. Work the shoulders down. Cat is the exhale. 2 more times like this. Now, once you get to your next cow, feel the tailbone lift. Like kind of reaching up back behind you as if it was a dog's tail. And then as you exhale, think about that tailbone creeping underneath you. And then you can come into a neutral position, setting up heart melting pose. Hips stay on top of the knees, walk the arms out. Now the arms should be straight. Hands are shoulder width apart, fingers are spread. Again, just like downward facing dog. Just like downward facing dog, roll your shoulders externally, so rotate. Now squeeze the elbows in to stay parallel and keep the arms strong and straight. And then start to descend your heart, melt the heart toward the floor. But don't lose the shoulders. If you find you kind of collapse in the shoulders, that's okay. Back out, externally rotate, squeeze, and then keep that as the priority and you lowering down as the secondary sort of factor in your exploration of this pose, heart melting pose. One more breath here. If you're going to relax the head and neck without losing the external shoulder rotation, go ahead and do it. However, I know that can be kind of tricky. Again, a lot happening here. Do your best. And then you could slide your hands back to lift yourself up and out, and we'll push back to downward facing dog. Keeping the knees bent here, especially if you're on the tight side. Checking in with the hands. Again, should still be shoulder width, fingers spread, feet hip width. Now we're going to straighten the right knee and try to get that right heel a little bit closer to the ground. Keep using your arms to push your hips up and back. Now switch. Bend the right knee, straighten the left leg, get that left heel maybe a little bit closer to the ground.
Hands still pushing so the hips go up and back. We'll do this one more time on each side. A lot of teachers call this kind of little movement walking the dog. So you're walking it out a little bit, getting into it. Stay with your breath here. You got this. And then slowly start to walk the hands back to the feet, and you'll end up in a forward fold. So bending the knees here, let yourself sway a little bit from side to side. And I want you to actually grab your opposite elbows. So bend your elbows, grab on your opposite elbows, and let your head hang in between. And then just shake your head, yes. Shake your head, no. Keep that breath as deep as you can. And then slowly start to walk the hands back forward, come back into downward facing dog. On an inhale, shift into plank. So top of a push-up. If you need to put your knees down, put your knees down. In fact, I'll do that with you. Create that ramp in your back. So we're not in tabletop anymore. We're in like a ramp position, preparing for our low plank. So lower down, elbows in. We're not coming all the way to the ground here. Instead, we're going to push back up. So that's one. We're going to do two more. Moving slowly on exhale. Lower down. Pause halfway. Hover. Push back up. Try to squeeze your arms in toward one another. They're not going to move, but that action will give you a little bit more power. Last one. So the yoga push down. And then pushing it back up. Whoo, yeah. Take it back to child's pose. Just for a breath here. And then start to crawl your way into downward facing dog. Now again, find your breath. Find your gratitude. And slowly start to walk your hands back to your feet. This time, however, we are going to cross the right ankle over the left ankle, trying to line the pinky toes up as best you can, and take a forward fold with the ankles crossed. Your back leg, which probably I think is your left leg, might hyperextend. So bend your back knee just a little bit. It's only going to be able to bend so far because of that front leg, but that'll help protect it. Let's come up and do a half fold here. So walk your hands up your legs. Shoulders rotate. Take the round out of your back. Shift the weight forward. And then use that length to pour yourself down. One more time like that. Inhale to lift. And exhale down. Now finish your exhale. Go ahead and uncross your legs. Notice which one is in front. We're going to do the other side in a moment, but let's walk it right back out to downward facing dog. We're going to go through that same little mini sequence, ending with a forward fold with the ankles crossed the other way. Here we go. Inhale, plank. Knees if you need to. Exhale, lower down slowly. Hover. Inhale, push back up. Two more. Wait for the exhale. Slowly, slowly, slowly. Inhale, push back up. And if you flop down, if you have to reset, that's okay. The important thing is that you're trying. Just try the best you can, and you'll start to build strength. You'll start to build flexibility. And then, of course, after this, we drop the knees down and come back to child's pose. Allow ourselves a breath to compose. And then move our way back to downward facing dog. Walking the hands back to the feet. This time we'll step our left ankle over the right. Try to line the pinky toes up. Bend that back knee a little bit into the front leg for a forward fold. So another little new pose here. We're sneaking in. Didn't require much setup, so I didn't really prep it at the beginning. Hopefully you've got this. 2 inhale half folds, and then 2 exhale forward folds, and then we'll move on. So now you know what's happening. See if you can deepen the breath. Good. Now unwrap or unwind the legs. Instead of interlacing your fingers in front of you, you're going to interlace your fingers behind your back. And then lift your hands up off of your back and forward fold with a little bit of a hand bind behind you. So this is similar to what we did in the open the shoulders class, where we're reaching the knuckles up and back as we dive a little bit into this forward fold. Keep your knees bent here if you're really tight in the hamstrings. Okay, there might be all kinds of things happening here. So that's like life. You know, like there's times where it's like things are happening in all different directions, and you have to try to do your best to stay calm and focused and handle things as best you can. All right, and you can release that. Keep your chin tucked into your chest. That's the last thing to come up, and just roll 1 vertebrae at a time, nice and slowly. Shoulders back, crown of the head lifts. You come into mountain. A little side bend action here. Inhale the arms all the way up. Good. Now take your left palm and turn it out to the left. Take your right hand, grab onto that left wrist. Lift it up, lift it up, lift it up. And here we go for another side bend. So we did the seated side bend earlier. Now we're doing a standing version. Again, the danger here is the low ribs popping out. So draw those in to incorporate the abdominals. Keep your lower back safe. And then take this right hand and really pull that wrist as you push the left foot down. On an inhale, when you're ready, come on up, switch sides. So the right palm turns out, left hand grabs the wrist, lifting up to go over, lifting up to go over, lifting up to go over. Rib cage loop helps protect our lower back. Right foot stays firmly into the ground, using the hand to pull the wrist a little bit deeper or a little bit longer. And then inhaling, come all the way up and relax the arms down. Do some half salutations. So if you're not at the front of your mat or your space, go ahead and take it there. On an inhale, arms to reach up, shoulders down. Exhale, forward as you go down for a forward fold. Straighten your knees at the end. Chin into the chest at the end of the exhale. Inhale, halfway up. Hands slide. Take that round out of the back. Reach your weight forward. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, coming all the way up. Arms coming up overhead with you. Exhale, back to mountain. We'll do one more together. And I want you to do one more on your own. So kind of pay attention to this pattern here. Arms up. Hopefully it should be familiar if you've been staying with our series of videos. Exhale, forward fold. But even if you haven't, hopefully it's simple enough. Inhale, halfway up. And the exhale back to forward fold, and then we unwind ourselves back to standing. Arms
come up with you, and then exhale down to mountain. So go ahead and now do one of those on your own as best you remember. I'll give you a hint. You start by inhaling your arms all the way up, and you hopefully take it from there. So don't look at me right now, right? You should be just listening. Well, really just listening to your body first, your breath. You can kind of hear me in the background perhaps. And if you're not quite sure what to do, that's okay. If you end up repeating an extra half fold or you forget a forward fold, it's okay. You'll build your familiarity with these sequences over time. Really, the important thing is you let your breath guide you. Now, if you're still finishing that, that's fine. If you're done, just maintain in mountain, that standing position. Don't break your focus by looking at the video. Just stare out into an imaginary horizon in front of you. We're going to come into tree pose. Again, new pose. I didn't prep you on it because it's fairly straightforward. We're going to take our left knee and lift it up. Then we're going to take that left knee and turn it out. All right. Now we're going to place this left foot somewhere inside of the right leg. Okay, so either low below the knee or high above the knee. What I don't want you to do, and there's this like arch of your foot here, and it wants to like maybe just rest on your knee. We don't want to push the knee in like that. All right, so it's either below the knee or above the knee. And honestly, and if you're feeling really off balance or you're recovering from an injury that makes this an extra dangerous pose to be balancing, you can keep your left toes on the ground and your left heel inside. Just keep opening that knee to the side. You might feel a little bit of a hip stretch. Hands can come together in front of your heart. If you want a little extra challenge, keep the arms overhead, shoulders pull down. So whatever it is for you, whatever version you're taking, let's try to maintain. And hopefully you'll feel your standing foot doing a lot of little micro adjustments. And this is really a great value to poses like this. It works these muscles and it works your balance really, really well. And there's not too many other things that can do that. So these one leg balances are great. All right, let's switch sides. So plant your left foot down, then your right knee up, get your balance. Now, if you're staring at me, then it's really hard to balance. So I think pick one thing to stare with your eyes. Open up the knee, so open up the right knee, and then place the foot wherever makes sense for you. Again, it's either below the knee or above the knee. You can even have those right toes down, the right heel on the inside of the leg. Many different arm positions that you can take here. You can even have the arms out to a T to help you balance. But again, your eyes are focused just on one thing. And this is such a great metaphor for just life in general. Like when we're trying to balance many different things, sometimes there's a tendency to like dart your eyes around to all those different things that you've got to balance. But instead, if you just focus on one at a time and give that your mental energy, deal with it, move on to the other, this can really help you to balance things in a more realistic way. I've always had a problem with this idea of multitasking. To me, it's just you're just transitioning really quickly between a lot of different things, not really giving one thing your full attention. So be careful how often you transition when you're trying to get multiple things done. All right. Come on out of that. Feel your feet into the ground. So now we're going to go into essentially what are sun salutations, but we're going to pepper in a low lunge and high lunge with our hands down. So the front of your mat, here we are in mountain. Inhale the arms all the way up. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Take the round out of your back, shift the weight forward. Exhale, bend the knees, hands come down. Step the right foot way back, and then put the right knee onto the floor.
And bring your hands, interlace them on your front knee. Roll the shoulders back here. Loop the rib cage in. And we're going to start to use that scissoring motion. So it's been a while since we talked about lunges. So as a reminder, my right knee is going to push into the ground and drag forward. It's not going to physically move anywhere, but that's the direction I'm trying to take it. The ground is just stopping it. My left foot, push that into the ground, drag backward. So those create a bit of stability for me and opening. That's the best 1-2 punch. Can we engage while we create flexibility? One more breath here. Now we're going to place the hands down, tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee up. So high lunge with the hands on the ground. This could be a place where you use your blocks. 3 breaths here. Kind of think about how your body is in plank pose when you're on the top of a push-up. So this is kind of like a similar dynamic here. Reaching through the crown of your head, pulling back with your right heel so this back leg is super strong and straight. While the toes try to pull forward, this left foot, the front foot, tries to drag backward, right? So there's a lot going on here as we finish this last breath. And then stepping back into plank pose. My blocks off to the side. And then lower down. Use your knees if you'd like. Heart hits first, belly hits second. Point the toes, point the legs. Inhale. Come on up into cobra. Shoulders down the back. And exhale. Do that 2 more times. Inhale to lift. And exhale down. 1 more. Squeeze the shoulder blades together, pull them down the back, and then exhale, downward facing dog. Okay, so we're going to unwind this. We are going to stay just on the one side. So we stepped our right foot back. So we're going to step our left foot forward in between our hands. We have to kind of yank it to get in between the hands. Pause for a beat and high lunge with the hands down. On an exhale, spring forward into forward fold. Inhale, come all the way up. Bring the arms width. And exhale, lower. Let's do the second side. So hopefully now you're familiar with this sequence a little bit. You don't have to think so much. You can feel more. Exhale, forward fold. Really get back into that deep breath dynamic. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bend the knees, hands come down, left foot steps back, left knee to the floor. Interlace your fingers on your front thigh. Push that knee forward as the shoulders roll back. Heart lifts a little bit. Rib cage rolls to keep it in check. And then the legs get really active. Right foot pushes down, drags back. Left knee pushes down, drags forward. 1 more deep breath. Pour the hands down onto the ground or on blocks. Back knee comes up off the ground. High lunge, hands down. 3 breaths. So my legs are active, that same sort of scissoring dynamic. Right foot pushes down, drags back. Left toes or the ball of the left foot pushes down, drags forward. Crown of the head reaches out. And then stepping into plank. Finding an exhale to lower yourself down, hover halfway, and then to the floor. 3 cobras. Again, we're not straightening our arms. We're not using our arm strength. We're using our upper back strength. In fact, you might want to do these next 2 with your hands lifted an inch off the ground. Inhale, come as high as you can. Really work the upper back. If you want to keep the hands down, you can do that as well. And then after the third one, downward facing dog. So we stepped our left foot back on this one. So we're going to stay on that same side. So we'll take our right foot forward. High lunge, hands down for a moment. Long inhale through the crown of your head. And then exhale, spring forward into forward fold. Inhale, come all the way up. Arms lift. Exhale, come down in the mountain. Pause for a moment here. Place one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. Allow yourself to gather. Feeling maybe some warmth. Maybe feeling that heartbeat. Now we're going into our next little segment. Again, we're using Sun Salutation as sort of the overall structure. This time we're going to add high lunge with the arms up. So there's a little bit of balance there. And then that new pose, half splits. Here we go. On your inhale, take those arms up, really reach them out to the side. Hopefully you're starting to feel alive and feel grateful for being able to move here today. Exhale. And even if you might be like, kind of like, oh, this is tough, but like you can do it, right? Like it's possible. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, bend the knees, hands come down. Now, right foot steps way back. Maybe walk this left foot a little out to the left. Give yourself some stability. And then bring those hands onto the front thigh. Eyes focus on one thing. Remember, this is high lunge, so our back heel stays off the ground. It's going to want to creep down toward the left. Keep it up. Now, if you're feeling good, bring your hands onto your waist, in front of your heart, or over your head. Any of those things work, but it's going to challenge your balance when you don't have your hands on your front thigh. Eyes glued to one thing here, really reaching up with the crown of the head. If your arms are up, reach up with the fingertips. Draw that rib cage in. Last breath here in high lunge. And then pour the hands forward. Drop the back knee down. Now shift your hips so your hips are right on top of your right knee. Okay, I'm going to grab my blocks for this one as I straighten my left leg. Now I have to kind of like wiggle it forward a little bit. I'm going to have to lift it. So do what you have to do to keep your hips above your right knee, your left leg straight. Pull your toes back towards your face. If you can have your fingertips on the ground, that's great. Otherwise, a little something to help you out. Now, we're going to come into this like we would a half fold and forward fold. So on the inhale, we're going to lift up, take the round out of your back, get long through your spine, out the crown of the head. On the exhale, you're going to allow yourself to drop down. Maybe that's only like a half of an inch. Maybe you don't go very far, but now you can let your shoulders kind of round forward, chin into the chest. Two more like that. Inhale, get length in the spine. So you're going to back out a little bit. I can still feel it in my hamstring. It's just a different sort of dynamic. And then exhale, dive in. We have to be careful to support this. We don't want this knee locked out. So like a little bit of a bend here. One last time. So if you're feeling some discomfort behind your knee, it might be from a little hyperextension. So just a little bit. And the other way to think about this is actually to push your heel into the ground and drag it backward. And if you do that, you naturally support the knee joint. All right, go ahead and crawl yourself out of there. So walk your hands forward, kind of get yourself situated. Hands come down, stepping back into a plank position. And then lower down. Inhale, come up. And exhale, back to downward facing dog. Okay, here we go. Step that right foot back. So we're going to step the left foot forward. High lunge. Exhale, step it forward for forward fold. And then inhale, come all the way up. Bring the arms up overhead with you. Exhale, just for one quick spell in the mountain. Then immediately inhaling the arms back overhead. We'll do the second side. Y'all are doing great. Just stay with this. Inhale, halfway up. We'll get a little bit of a break here in a moment. Exhale, bend the knees. Hands come down. Left foot steps back now. Maybe walk the right foot out to the side, preparing for high lunge. Hands come up onto the front thigh. Commit your eyes to a gazing point. Shoulders back. Maybe the arms lift. Maybe they take a T position. So go ahead, whatever arm position you want, but let's keep working the legs, keep scissoring them in. That's your stability, that's your foundation. Don't let the back heel drop down. If it dropped down, that's okay. Spin it back up. That might throw you off balance. Play with this. This isn't a perfection thing. This is a practice thing. On your next exhale, hands pour all the way down. Left knee onto the ground. Shift your hips back as you straighten your right leg. You can see I kind of pick it up and lift it. Kind of have to reposition as you need to. And then inhale, come halfway up. Toes pull back towards your face. Exhale, forward fold. Now, if you're anything like me, it's really easy to pull my big toe back to my face, but my pinky toe is a little bit harder. So I have to work a little bit more on that side. And that also creates more of a stretch in my calf muscle, my lower leg. So if you can kind of play with that, do what you can. I know it's intense, so it's kind of the fun thing about yoga. You can continue to just sort of fine tune and dial in little things as you go. But if you learn to really stay with your breath, that acts as a great compass as you try to navigate these kind of parts unknown. So last ebb and flow here and half splits. And you know what, this time, let's just go ahead and send it right back to downward facing dog. So kick it back, right into downward dog, hips way back behind you. Step the right foot forward, hands stay down for a high lunge. Just a moment here, getting length. And then exhale, spring forward into forward fold. Inhale, arms come all the way up and overhead. Exhale, mountain. Pause. Other hand on the heart, other hand on the belly this time. Don't worry about me. I want you to consider closing your eyes, feeling into yourself here. Just giving you a couple of breaths to try to regulate. And these deep breaths send messages to your body that, everything's okay. I know it might feel a little hectic right now, but we're not in danger. Just stay with it. Breathe deeply. Every little thing gonna be all right. Now we'll end with a couple classic sun salutations before we get down onto the ground. So here we go. Inhale, arms up. And I want you to notice what these feel like in contrast to how they normally feel when we start our practice with them. Exhale all the way down and in. Inhale halfway up. It's going to be a long inhale because we're going to lower all the way to low plank. So bend the knees, hands come down, step the feet back, immediately lower. Maybe the knees come down, hover, pause. Heart first, belly second. Inhale, shoulder loop for cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog, 3 breaths. Maybe those heels drop a little closer to the ground. Maybe the hips reach back a little bit further. Maybe those shoulders roll away from your neck and your ears and you squeeze that beach ball. On your next exhale, time it so the exhale finishes when your feet get right next to your hands. Inhale, float up halfway. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, arms come all the way up and overhead. Exhale to mountain. This time, just one breath in downward facing dog. Inhale up. Exhale, dive it in. Inhale, extend your spine, float up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands come down, immediately lower. Get into that hover position. Resist the ground for a moment. Heart first, belly second. Our last cobra here. And then downward facing dog. In fact, not only are we just going to take one breath in downward facing dog, but after that breath, we're going to lower our knees down, separate them a little bit wide, and come into child's pose. Just for a moment, we're not going to be here for too long because what we're going to do is set up our final bit of cool down. So roll yourself out of child's pose, come to seated. You're going to have your right leg straight out in front. All right. Sorry for pointing the bottom of my foot at the camera, but I really wanted you to get a view of what's going on. Now, similar to that tree pose, my knee is bent out to the side and my foot's inside. Okay, so that's one option. The other option you can take is by taking this left foot and bringing it all the way and stacking your left knee on top of your right knee. All right, so those are the two variations that you can take in this. For my body, I prefer the bottom of the foot inside the leg. All right. For those of you more open in the hips, piling your knees one on top of the other, go for it. Now, we're going to take this leg that's straight, that arm, all right, your right hand, and we're going to just put that outside for a second. We're going to take the left arm and reach it up. And we're going to take this left arm and reach it to the pinky edge of the foot or the outside of the leg. So whatever works for you. This helps to keep our torso in line with our leg. If we did it the other way, the tendency is for the torso to kind of go on an angle away from this leg. So this is a way to sort of force the alignment in terms of the strategy we use to get into the pose. Now, if you want to inhale, like come halfway up, back out, get long in the spine, and then exhale, surrender in. You can do that if you want to kind of just hang out down here and breathe. It's up to you. I encourage you to close your eyes. And last breath here. If you want to take this right hand and get it involved for the last breath, by all means, go for it. Okay. Now, if you had your knee piled on top of your other knee, you're going to keep it like that. You're going to take, this is going to turn into twister a little bit, so just bear with me. So your right leg, you're going to bend it, it's going to lift it back, and you're going to pile both knees on top of one another. So my hips are way off the ground here. My hips are like, JB, this is not you. But some of you can come into this. This is my teacher calls it knee pile. It really is the bottom part of a pose called Gomukhasana, or cow face pose it's called, because I guess this is like the nose of the cow, and this is like the mouth of the cow, and this is like the chin or something. That arm bind we did and open the shoulders complements it, and you come forward. We're not going to do the upper part, just the lower part. So if you can do this, go ahead and forward fold your way in. Now, for those of you who can't, all right,
What you're going to do is take your shin bone parallel with what would be like the front of your mat, all right? And then you are going to stack your ankle on top of your knee. So we're not like angling our legs back toward us. We're actually stacking them parallel, one on top of the other. Now, you might have something like this going on. That's fine. Your work is just to exhale, breathe, and start to push that down. If you can, create this like shin stack, or sometimes it's called fire log pose. Sometimes it's called double pigeon pose. That's where I most commonly know it. Then you can either sit up tall if you're feeling some stuff, or you can forward fold. So these are your kind of options. These are essentially two different hip openers, and this is what we're trying to get into in a safe way at the end of our practice. Recognizing that we probably don't have a lot of energy left to give in terms of holding our alignment. So these positions are such that create safety without a whole lot of effort. And you can finish an exhale to come out. And what we'll do is we'll now take a seated twist. Okay, so if you're in this double pigeon, fire log pose, whatever, you are going to just take this top foot and set it down. Okay, those of you in knee pile, all right, same thing. Instead of having the feet back, kind of out to the side. Oh yeah, these are the ears of the cow too, I think. You're going to place the bottom of this foot flat. Okay, now whatever knee is lifted, or whatever knee is like popping up and bent, that's the side we want to twist to. All right, so the twist can get confusing, but if you think about it, whatever knee is up, that's the side. So my left knee is up, I'm gonna twist to the left. Now you can hug that knee in as you twist, maybe get a little spinal firework action. You could even hook the elbow outside. Just be careful you're not using your arms and like cranking on this. We want to come to a place where we can breathe deeply, getting length on the inhale, and then exhale, pull the belly in. One more breath here. And then release. Not just kind of twist to the other side, just a little counter, kind of feels nice. And now we're going to do the other side. So my left leg is now out, toes pull back, and you can choose. You can either pile the knee on top, or you can take sort of the tree version. I've got a little bit of medial knee stuff happening, so it's really hard for me to bring this up here. So I'm going to slide that foot down a little bit. And even if it was on the inside of my knee here, it's okay, because my weight isn't bearing on this leg. So there's not that danger just setting it there. Again, we want to go across our body to get into this. So the left fingertips kind of tent down, the right hand reaches up on the inhale, and exhale, take it across the body, grabbing on the outside of the leg. And if you can grab the pinky edge of the foot, great. If you can't, great. You have to navigate your own experience. And this is one of the beautiful metaphors surrounding a yoga practice, is that comparing yourself to someone else is a recipe for unhappiness. And really the beauty and the key is to just watch what happens without any judgment. So there's no comparison to you and somebody else. Really not even much comparison to you and like your former self, or like what you could do on that first side. Oh, I can't go as like, these are all judgment thoughts. All right. And you might be conditioned to have that inner critic always showing up. And so I really want to invite you to just use your breath to like let that chatter go. It's really not real. I mean, it's real in the fact that you experience it, but you can also choose to take your mind somewhere else. All right. So now we'll go into the hip opener. Again, you can either stack this knee on top, swing this foot back for this cow face pose, trying to kind of muscle my way in to sort of show you a little bit of it, what it might look like. Again, here are the ears of the cow, the nose, the mouth, chin. And then you would forward fold. Again, this can be a lot on the knees. So double pigeon, fire log. So shin bone stacked right on top of shin. So I'm not doing like the cross here, like a crisscross applesauce. I'm stacking both shins, and maybe I'm forward folding. Maybe. Got my toes flexing back toward my knee, keeping things as stable and active as I can. And that's pretty much the extent of the effort. Otherwise, it's just using gravity and body weight to sort of leverage yourself in. A couple more breaths here. Again, maybe closing the eyes as you soften. And now's a great time to just like give thanks for the effort that you have been able to muster up here today. And it might not have been like your best effort or whatever, but it was what you had to give today. So still be grateful. Again, watch that judgmental tendency to creep in, and know that your yoga practice is a place where you can just totally send that judgment out the door. It's one of the things I really like about it. All right, coming into the twist. So now your right foot comes flat onto the ground. And again, the right knee is in the air, so we're going to twist to the right. Using the exhale to deepen the twist, pulling that belly in to the spine. And take a quick counter twist. Woo! And we're going to finish today's class actually in a seated position. Now, if you absolutely love Shavasana, that corpse position, that lying on your back relaxation, I'm not going to keep you from it, but you can also ground your practice just in a seated position. So I'm coming back to that easy pose that we started off with. Letting my shoulders relax down, letting the crown of the head lift. And I just want you to go back to those three things that you were grateful for within yourself, in your inner circle, and then kind of worldwide. Maybe those things have changed a little bit. Maybe that gratitude is expanded well beyond just these three things that we started class off with. Whatever your experience is, I just want you to bring back to this idea of finding gratitude. Because that ability is not always easy. It's easy when someone does something nice for you, or you get a gift. Easy to be grateful. Can you find gratitude in situations that are more challenging? Can you find, some people will call it the silver lining. Can you find the lesson in the challenge? And these are things that you can be grateful for. And to be clear, I'm not saying you have to accept those unfortunate circumstances. I encourage you to work and give effort to changing things in your life or in society that are causing you these difficult circumstances, or other people. But again, if you can look for the lessons, if you can look for the blessings, if you can look for the opportunities, you start to have a perspective where solution appears. And that's something I really want you to have in your life. So I hope you enjoyed today's practice and our lesson. Have a great rest of your day. And again, if you want to lay down for 2 to 10 minutes and really ground your practice, I totally encourage it. Peace.